For early humans, survival was not an endless chase across a dangerous wilderness. Much of life happened in the quiet spaces between the hunt, the pauses, the conversations, the careful decisions, and the long hours beside a fading fire. But rest was never as simple as doing nothing. Where could you safely stop? Who remained alert? When was it time to move again? And what happened when strangers appeared beyond the edge of camp? Tonight, we return to the distant world of our ancestors and continue exploring what early humans actually did all day. This is part 2 of our journey. If you have not watched part 1, you can find it linked in the description below. Now, settle in, let the modern world slowly disappear, and imagine the camp growing quiet beneath the afternoon sky. Because even the simple act of resting is surprisingly complicated. Before you settle in, don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you're enjoying the journey so far, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I always love seeing people tuning in from different corners of the world. Now, get cozy. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan or the AC for that soft background sound, and let's gently drift into tonight's story together. Now the day becomes hot. Movement slows. People sit in shade or near the shelter. Someone sleeps briefly. Someone nurses a baby. Someone examines a sore foot. Someone continues scraping hide with a repetitive motion. Someone else simply watches. This is where modern observers sometimes become confused. They see people resting during daylight and conclude that the lifestyle is effortless, or they see difficult travel and conclude that every hour is exhausting. Both impressions can be true on different days. Foraging life often alternates intensity and inactivity. A person may walk many miles, carry a heavy load, and then rest for a long period. A hunt may demand explosive effort followed by waiting. A move between camps may be grueling, while the following day remains quiet. The human body is not designed to perform maximum labor continuously. It works in rhythms: effort, recovery, attention, effort again. Rest is not the absence of survival behavior. Rest protects survival capacity. It reduces overheating. It allows recovery from injuries. It conserves energy when action offers little benefit. It creates time for conversation, observation, and low-intensity work. Someone sitting under a tree may still be twisting fiber. Someone lying near the fire may be teaching a child a song. Someone apparently doing nothing may be listening for distant animals. Someone may be thinking. We cannot excavate thought. There is no fossil of a plan, no preserved trace of a joke, no stone layer labeled "two people reconciled here." Archaeology is best at recovering material consequences, but most human life leaves no durable object. A conversation can redirect a migration. A warning can save a child. A memory can guide people to water. A marriage can connect two communities. A disagreement can divide a camp. A song can preserve information for centuries. None of these events necessarily leaves a mark in the soil. So when we imagine early humans, we must resist the idea that only visible artifacts represent real activity. People spent time doing what humans still do: watching one another, remembering, worrying, hoping, daydreaming, negotiating, making sense of the world, and occasionally doing absolutely nothing important at all. In the afternoon, discussion becomes more serious. The group has remained in this location for several days. Nearby fuel is becoming harder to collect. One plant patch has been heavily used. Animal signs are less frequent. Waste has accumulated. Insects are worsening. Water remains available, but another known location may offer better conditions. Should the camp move tomorrow? Mobility is not random wandering. Mobile hunter-gatherers often travel within known territories, revisiting places according to seasons, water, plant cycles, animal movement, and social obligations. A campsite is selected for reasons: shade, drainage, visibility, protection from wind, distance to water, access to food, availability of fuel, safety from animals, space for sleeping and working, proximity to raw materials, connections to other people. When local resources decline, the value of remaining falls. Research on hunter-gatherer mobility suggests that residential movement is often related to predictable resource depletion around camps. But moving has costs. Shelters must be dismantled or abandoned, possessions must be packed, children must travel, injured people may struggle, heavy resources must be left behind. The group must know where it is going. A storm could arrive, water at the next location may have disappeared, another group may already be there. The decision requires knowledge distributed among several people. One person remembers the route, another knows the water source, another knows that relatives may be nearby. Another worries about an elderly member's strength. Another argues that the group should remain until the meat is processed. There may not be one unquestioned leader. Small mobile communities can make decisions through discussion, influence, experience, and consensus, though political organization varies widely. Some voices carry more weight. A skilled tracker's opinion matters when discussing animals. An experienced elder may understand seasonal movement. A healer may judge whether someone can travel. A persuasive speaker may shape the group simply by framing the options well. People disagree. One person wants to move, another does not. A third suggests sending a scouting party. This is politics before government buildings. No throne, no written law, no microphone. Just human beings trying to coordinate different needs. Eventually, a plan emerges. A few people will inspect the next area at first light. The group will process as much food as possible today. If the water source is reliable, they will move the following morning. The decision spreads through camp. Children are told. Containers are checked. Items not worth carrying are set aside. The future enters the present. Much of the afternoon will now be spent preparing for tomorrow. How many possessions did early humans own? The answer depends on time, place, technology, and mobility. But mobile people face a simple constraint. Everything must move somehow. Possessions therefore have weight. A useful object can still become a burden. People prioritize things that are valuable, difficult to replace, or easy to carry. Tools, raw material, containers, clothing, bedding, food, fire-making supplies, ornaments, medicinal substances, objects connected to memory or identity. A beautifully worked tool may travel far from the source of its stone. Shells can appear inland. Pigments can move between regions. Beads can reveal social connections over enormous distances. Ostrich eggshell bead traditions, for example, have been used to reconstruct networks across Africa extending back tens of thousands of years. Similarities and differences in bead manufacture can preserve evidence of interaction, cultural boundaries, and long-distance exchange. An ornament is not nutritionally useful. It does not cut meat. It does not dig roots. Yet humans invested time in making ornaments. Why? Because human survival is social. An ornament can communicate identity, membership, age, status, relationship, skill, memory, beauty. A traveler wearing a familiar style may be recognized as connected to people far away. A bead can be small enough to carry and powerful enough to speak without words. Someone in camp gathers several objects into a hide bundle. A child tries to add a large piece of wood. An adult removes it. The child protests. The object matters to the child. Perhaps it is a toy. Perhaps it resembles a tool. Perhaps it was given by someone. The adult considers the weight and returns it. Even in deep prehistory, packing may have involved negotiation. At another shelter, bedding is shaken out. At the hearth, food is dried. A person checks bindings. Someone finishes a repair that has been postponed for days. Moving exposes every weakness. A cracked container may survive while stationary but fail during travel. A damaged sandal may become a serious problem after several hours of walking. A loose spear point may be useless when suddenly needed. The camp becomes busier. Yet there is still conversation. People recall the last time they visited the next location. A child asks whether certain relatives will be there. Someone warns about a dangerous crossing. Someone describes a fruiting tree from a previous season. Memory organizes movement. Their landscape is not an untouched wilderness. It is a web of named places, past events, and expected resources. A rock shelter is where a child was born. A river bend is where someone drowned. A hill is where animals are seen after rain. A tree marks a path toward water. A distant mountain may appear in stories. The land is practical geography and emotional history at once. People are not merely moving through nature, they are moving through memory. During the preparations, attention returns to the sick man. His fever has not improved. Someone brings water. Another person checks his breathing. A plant preparation may be offered. A wound may be cleaned. Heat may be applied. The group's understanding of illness is not modern biomedical science. But that does not mean they possess no useful knowledge. People can observe that certain plants reduce pain, that washing a wound sometimes helps, that rest matters, that some illnesses spread, that spoiled food causes sickness, that immobilizing an injury reduces pain, that warmth, hydration, and care improve survival. They may mix practical treatment with spiritual explanation, ritual, and symbolism. These categories are not always separate. We should also remember how much caregiving costs. A person unable to walk must be supported or left behind. A person unable to gather still consumes food. A severely injured individual may require help for months or years. Evidence of healed injuries among prehistoric humans suggests that at least some individuals survived conditions they probably could not have managed alone. Care is labor. Someone brings food, someone cleans waste, someone slows the group's movement, someone remains nearby during the night. Compassion has practical consequences. It uses time and calories. It also strengthens trust. Any healthy person may become tomorrow's injured person. A group that cares for members creates a form of social insurance. But care can be emotionally complicated. People become exhausted. They disagree about how much help is possible. They fear infection. They worry that movement will kill the sick person. They worry that remaining will endanger everyone. There are no easy answers. Prehistoric people faced moral decisions with limited resources. Their humanity was not demonstrated by living in perfect harmony. It was demonstrated by having to decide what they owed one another. The sick man drinks. A child watches. The caregiver adjusts the skin covering him. Outside, preparations continue. Life does not stop for illness, but neither does illness disappear into the background. The group's plan may change because one person cannot stand. History often focuses on great migrations and technological revolutions. Yet the root of a prehistoric community may once have been altered by a single fever. Late in the afternoon, someone sees movement beyond the camp. Several figures approach. The first reaction is attention, not panic, not welcome. Attention. Who are they? How many? Are they known? Are they carrying weapons openly or children with them? Do they approach directly or wait at a distance? Encountering other humans can create opportunity and danger. Visitors bring information, news of animals, weather, deaths, births, conflict, resources, routes, potential partners, new tools, songs, stories, ornaments, rumors. They may also bring competition, disease, theft, or violence. The approaching people are recognized, relatives and acquaintances. Bodies relax, voices rise, people move forward to greet them. Food may be offered. The visitors sit near the edge of camp. Their arrival reorganizes the evening. Questions begin immediately. Where have they been? Who is traveling with them? Is the northern water source still usable? Did they see the herd? Has another group passed through? Is a particular woman still with her family? Did an injured man recover? These questions build a regional map larger than any one person's experience. Information allows humans to adapt beyond what they can observe directly. One group knows conditions near the river. Another knows the hills. When they meet, both leave with a wider understanding. Objects may be exchanged, not necessarily through formal bargaining. A tool changes hands. Pigment is given. Food is shared. A visitor admires an ornament. Someone promises something later. Exchange creates obligations and relationships. Social networks are survival infrastructure. Among Hadza communities studied by researchers, cooperation and camp networks extend beyond close biological relatives, showing how friendship, reputation, and partner choice help organize collective life. For prehistoric populations, wider networks could become crucial during local shortages. When one area failed, people might seek support elsewhere. Marriage between groups could reduce isolation, visiting could maintain alliances, exchange could move rare materials across long distances, ideas could travel with people. A new tool design does not walk by itself. A song does not cross a mountain alone. A method of preparing food moves because someone demonstrates it. Culture travels through meetings. The visitors hear about tomorrow's possible move. They confirm that the water source ahead was reliable several days ago. This changes the balance of the discussion. The decision to travel now feels safer. A piece of information carried by a visitor may determine where the entire camp sleeps tomorrow night. The visitors have brought no written report, no map, no photograph, just memory. And memory is enough. The light begins to soften. Long shadows stretch from the shelters. People return from shorter tasks. The gathering party's plants are sorted. Meat is cut into manageable portions. Some food is placed near the fire. Children move closer. The camp gathers without being formally summoned. This is the moment we may recognize most easily. People waiting for food, someone impatient, someone telling another person not to touch something yet, a child receiving a small portion and immediately asking for more, an adult claiming that one piece is not properly cooked, someone laughing, someone offended by the laughter. Humanity does not require electricity. The meal is shaped by the day's uneven successes. The hunters brought meat. The gatherers brought plants. Another person collected fuel. Someone maintained the fire. Someone watched the children. Someone cared for the sick. Someone made the cutting tool. Someone carried water. Someone contributed knowledge about preparation. The food may look like the product of nature. It is really the product of a social system. Sharing does not have to be perfectly equal to be important. Certain portions may go to particular people. The hunter may have rights or obligations. Children and nursing mothers may be prioritized. Older people may receive softer foods. Visitors may be served. The person who owns a tool may claim something in return. Different societies develop different rules, but everyone notices distribution. Food is nutrition and politics. A generous person earns goodwill. A selfish person attracts criticism. Someone who shares today may receive food after failing tomorrow. The meal creates a public record of behavior, not written, remembered. As people eat, the pace of activity slows. Hands become less busy. Attention turns toward conversation. Daylight talk often concerns practical matters: where food was found, what needs repair, who will travel, what happened between people. But as darkness grows, conversation can change. Research among Jew Huansi communities found that fire-lit evening conversation contained more storytelling, singing, dancing, and discussion of distant people or spiritual worlds than daytime conversation, which was more heavily focused on practical affairs and social regulation. This does not tell us exactly what Paleolithic people said around their fires, but fire creates a distinctive human environment. It extends light beyond sunset. It gathers faces into a small circle. It makes distant darkness feel larger. It turns attention away from the landscape and toward other minds. The evening meal ends, but the social night is beginning. The fire is brighter now because the world around it is dark. Faces appear and disappear as flames move. Beyond the circle of light, the landscape is mostly sound. An animal calls, branches shift, the wind changes, someone adds wood. A visitor begins a story. Perhaps the story describes an event that truly happened, a dangerous river crossing, a hunt that failed, an encounter with strangers, a child who disappeared and returned. Perhaps the story changes during each telling. Perhaps animals speak. Perhaps ancestors shaped the land. Perhaps the story explains a star, a mountain, a rule, or a fear. The storyteller does more than list facts. They pause, lower their voice, repeat a phrase, imitate someone, allow listeners to anticipate what comes next. Children who were restless during practical discussion become quiet. The story contains entertainment, but it may also contain compressed knowledge. Do not travel alone near that place. Do not ignore the warning of birds. Do not become greedy after success. Remember who helped during the drought. Treat visitors carefully. A story can carry instructions without sounding like instructions. It packages memory in emotion. Facts are easier to remember when someone wants to hear them again. The story may also have no obvious survival lesson. It may simply be funny. Someone imitates a proud hunter who tripped in mud. The group erupts in laughter. The hunter protests. This becomes funnier. Laughter changes relationships. It reduces tension or creates it. A joke can challenge someone without direct confrontation. A story can preserve embarrassment for years. The fire circle is theater, school, parliament, and social court. A person's reputation is made there. A disputed event is retold. A generous act is praised. A selfish act becomes public. A child hears family history. A visitor introduces a song. Someone joins the rhythm by striking wood. Another person begins to dance. We cannot know when music first began. Percussion can be created without instruments that survive. Hands clap, feet strike earth, voices rise. A wooden object becomes a drum. A bone flute may survive archaeologically, but countless songs disappear the moment the singers stop. For nearly all human music before recording, silence is the only surviving archive. The fire also provides a setting for intimacy. Two people speak quietly beyond the main circle. A parent comforts a child. Someone tells a story about a dead relative. A young person watches someone they hope to impress. An older adult repeats a familiar story and is corrected by listeners who have heard it many times. The night contains humor, desire, grief, rivalry, imagination, and boredom. Not every evening is profound. Sometimes people are too tired. Sometimes it rains. Sometimes the fire smokes badly. Sometimes children refuse to sleep. Sometimes people argue. Sometimes everyone sits quietly. But fire gives humans something remarkable. Time after useful daylight. Time when the group can be together without traveling, searching, or processing as intensely. Time to inhabit worlds that do not physically exist. A remembered world. An imagined world. A world of spirits. A world of tomorrow. And perhaps that is one of the most important answers to our question. What did early humans do all day? They created realities inside one another's minds. Near the fire, someone holds a piece of ochre. The surface has been ground smooth from use. Pigment may be applied to skin, hide, wood, stone, or another object. We cannot know the meaning of every mark. Red pigment can be practical, decorative, ritual, or all three. A line may communicate identity. A pattern may preserve memory. A mark may be experimental. An image may be sacred. An ornament may simply be beautiful. The modern tendency is to separate art from survival. Food is necessary. Art is optional. But early humans repeatedly invested time in objects that were not simply tools for obtaining calories. Beads were shaped and perforated. Pigment was transported. Objects were engraved. Cave walls were painted. Bodies were decorated. Geometric signs appeared on portable objects across many regions and periods. These activities required labor. Pigment had to be found. Material had to be carried. Surfaces had to be prepared. Beads had to be shaped one by one. Designs had to be learned. A cave artist needed light, fuel, pigment, tools, access, companions perhaps, and time. Why spend calories creating something that cannot be eaten? Because humans do not survive as isolated digestive systems. They survive through identity, trust, belonging, and shared imagination. Symbols can connect people who are absent. They can distinguish one group from another. They can mark relationships. They can honor the dead. They can communicate status or maturity. They can bind people to stories larger than any individual. The person working with ochre may not think, I am producing symbolic culture. They may simply be preparing for a ceremony, decorating a body, marking an object, following tradition, copying a design learned in childhood, remembering someone, doing what people do. That phrase, doing what people do, is easy to underestimate. Much of culture survives because repetition feels normal. A child sees adults wear certain ornaments. The child later wears them. A song is heard, then sung. A mark is copied, a story is repeated. Tradition continues, not because every generation debates its purpose, but because people inherit a world already full of meaning. The fire burns lower. The ochre is wrapped and stored. It is valuable enough to carry tomorrow. Modern darkness is optional. We turn on lights. Early darkness changed what was possible. Away from the fire, vision narrows. Movement becomes riskier. Predators may be active. The ground is harder to read. Small objects are easily lost. Most travel stops unless urgency requires it. But the camp does not instantly become silent. People move between shelters in the fire. Someone checks stored food. A child wakes. A baby cries. An adult steps away to relieve themselves. Someone adds fuel. Someone listens because a sound beyond camp seems unfamiliar. Night watch may not involve one person standing formally with a spear. People's sleep can be staggered naturally. Babies wake caregivers. Older adults sleep differently. The fire requires attention. Noise interrupts rest. Illness keeps someone awake. As a result, there may often be at least one person awake during much of the night. Studies of recent non-industrial populations suggest sleep is neither a perfect 8-hour block nor a universal sunset to sunrise pattern. Research among Hadza, San, and Samane participants found average sleep durations around 5.7 to 7.1 hours, with sleep timing influenced strongly by temperature and season. We cannot assume prehistoric sleep was identical. People used different shelters, climates, bedding, fire practices, and social arrangements, but sleep was likely flexible. Someone lies beside relatives. Another sleeps near the fire. Children may sleep close to caregivers. Animal skins, grass, leaves, mats, or other materials provide insulation from the ground. The body cools. Conversation fades. The group hears the fire crackle. A person who spent the day carrying meat feels pain in the shoulders. The gathering child replays a correction from the morning. The sick man breathes unevenly. A visitor whispers to a relative. Somewhere outside the light, an animal moves and stops. The camp becomes alert for a moment, then settles again. There is no locked door. Safety comes from location, fire, tools, dogs in later contexts, and the presence of other people. Sleeping together is protection. It is also disturbance. Someone snores, someone moves, someone dreams, someone wakes too early. Prehistoric nights were not endlessly peaceful, yet imagine the sky. No city glow, no aircraft, no satellites. Stars extend across the darkness with a clarity many modern people rarely experience. The sky changes predictably. The moon grows and shrinks. Certain stars appear in particular seasons. The night offers orientation, timing, and stories. People do not need modern astronomy to notice patterns. They look upward because the sky is unavoidable. Perhaps someone identifies tomorrow's direction by stars. Perhaps a constellation is an animal. Perhaps the moon is tied to a remembered event. Perhaps the night is simply beautiful. We cannot know what this group believes. We know only that human beings looked at the same sky long before anyone wrote down what they saw. Our imagined day is ending. But before we leave, we must undo it. Because the phrase, "a day in the life of early humans," hides a problem. There was no normal day, not one that applies across hundreds of thousands of years. A winter day differed from a summer day. A day of migration differed from a day at camp. A successful hunt differed from a failed one. A coastal community followed tides. A desert community followed water. A northern group prepared for extreme cold. A tropical forest group navigated dense vegetation. A day during abundance allowed choice. A day during scarcity narrowed every decision. A pregnant person experienced the landscape differently from a healthy young hunter. A child's day differed from an elder's. An injured person's day might be almost entirely rest. A craft specialist could spend hours producing one object. A grieving family might reorganize the whole group's routine. Seasonality could transform life. For several weeks, one resource might dominate activity. Fish arrive, fruit ripens, animals migrate, nuts become available, honey is found. Then, the opportunity disappears. People respond quickly because nature does not schedule abundance for convenience. During rich periods, they may work intensely to collect, process, and preserve as much as possible. During poor conditions, they travel farther for less. During storms, they remain sheltered. During extreme heat, activity shifts toward morning and evening. During cold weather, fuel collection becomes urgent. There were also days of ceremony, days of visiting, days of mourning, days when a child was born, days when someone died, days when strangers appeared, days when conflict divided the camp, days when nothing dramatic happened at all. We should resist replacing one stereotype with another. The old stereotype says early humans were constantly starving, fighting, and fleeing. The opposite stereotype says they worked only a few hours and spent the rest of life relaxing in an original paradise. Neither captures the variation. Some days were easy, some were brutal. Some groups lived in rich environments, others faced severe shortages. People experienced infection, parasites, injury, infant death, and violence. But they also possessed knowledge, social support, and technologies refined across generations. They were vulnerable. They were not helpless. They were active. They were not endlessly frantic. They worked. They also rested. They adapted. They also made mistakes. They were not primitive versions of us waiting for history to begin. They were people living at the center of their own history. So what did early humans actually do all day? They woke and checked the fire. They listened to the weather. They looked for tracks. They checked on children, elders, and sick companions. They decided whether to remain or move. They collected plants, dug roots, cracked nuts, gathered fuel, carried water, searched for honey, caught fish, followed animals, waited for opportunities, abandoned dangerous hunts, butchered successful kills, carried impossible weights, shared food, argued over food, cooked, dried, roasted, ground, pounded, cut, scraped, twisted, tied, sharpened, repaired, packed, unpacked, built shelters, cleaned camps, maintained tools, treated hides, made clothing, produced containers, created ornaments, prepared pigments, taught children, watched children, carried children, comforted children, played with children, lost patience with children. They cared for wounds, supported injured companions, visited relatives, welcomed strangers, feared strangers, exchanged materials, exchanged news, made plans, changed plans, disagreed about plans. They rested beneath trees, slept during heat, watched clouds, remembered paths, learned songs, told jokes, spread gossip, formed friendships, fell in love, became jealous, forgave, refused to forgive, mourned the dead, imagined spirits, studied animals, looked at stars, and told stories beside fires that no longer exist. Most importantly, they paid attention. Our world rewards narrow attention, a screen, a task, a deadline. Their world demanded wide attention: wind, animals, people, fire, children, plants, distance, sound, temperature, memory, and possibility, all at once. A person who ignored the landscape missed food. A person who ignored relationships lost support. A person who ignored the fire lost warmth. A person who ignored children risked the future. Their lives were not simple. They were integrated. Everything connected to everything else. A gathering trip was also a lesson. A meal was also politics. An ornament was also identity. A story was also memory. A visitor was also information. A fire was also protection, cooking, theater, and time. And this may be the greatest difference between their day and ours. We have separated life into categories: work, education, entertainment, exercise, childcare, travel, socializing, religion, art. Early humans often experienced these activities overlapping. Walking was transportation and observation. Gathering was labor and teaching. Food processing was work and conversation. Storytelling was entertainment and education. Dance was art and social bonding. A camp was home, workshop, school, kitchen, clinic, council room, and theater. They did not leave life to go to work. Their work happened inside life. It is late now. Most of the camp is asleep. The visitors lie near one shelter. The hunter's tools have been cleaned. Food has been placed where animals are less likely to reach it. Bundles are ready for tomorrow's journey. The child who practiced digging is asleep beside a caregiver. The sick man's fever may improve. Or it may not. Nothing guarantees the morning. One person remains near the fire. Perhaps they are awake by choice. Perhaps pain prevents sleep. Perhaps they are waiting for a baby to settle. They lift a piece of wood and place it across the embers. Sparks rise briefly. The person looks toward the dark edge of camp, then toward the sleeping bodies. Every person here carries something the others need. Strength, knowledge, memory, skill, food, humor, care, a route through unfamiliar land, a method for shaping stone, a song that calms a child, a story that explains who they are. This is why the old image of the solitary caveman is so misleading. A solitary human is not the foundation of human history. The group is. The shared fire is. The exchanged meal, the borrowed tool, the warning, the lesson, the hand-lifting part of another person's burden. Early humans survived not because each individual was an unstoppable wilderness expert. They survived because knowledge was distributed, because risk was shared, because children were taught, because injured people were sometimes carried, because stories outlived storytellers, because one person stayed awake long enough to protect an ember for everyone else. And perhaps tomorrow, that ember will travel. Wrapped carefully, carried to the next camp, fed with dry grass, brought back to flame, the people will wake. They will check the sky. They will gather their belongings. They will lift children and tools. They will follow a route remembered by someone older. They will walk toward water. And another ordinary prehistoric day will begin. Not a day of constant terror, not a day of endless leisure. A human day, complicated, social, demanding, funny, uncertain, full of work that rarely survives in the ground, full of thoughts that leave no fossils, full of voices we will never hear. Yet if we sit quietly enough beside our own imagined fire, those people do not seem entirely distant. They worry about tomorrow. They remember yesterday. They repair what is broken. They care for people who cannot care for themselves. They complain about unfairness. They laugh at familiar stories. They watch children learn. They look into darkness and wonder what is waiting beyond the light. And slowly, as the fire fades, they fall asleep beneath the same turning sky. The embers settle. The camp becomes quiet. And for a few hours at least, there is nothing more to do. If this epic story brought you a sense of wonder and helped you relax tonight, please consider supporting the channel. Take a moment to like this video, leave a comment below with your favorite part of the story, share it with someone who loves history, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us create more deep, immersive storytelling designed to help you unwind and explore the past. Sleep well, and until next time, may your dreams be filled with history.